Hello, it's Alex here. Welcome back to my channel. We are here as always to talk about sewing, and I am going to tell you all about the new pattern release from Dhurata Davies, which is the Jasmine dress and sweater. But before I do, I've just got to say a huge thank you to everyone. I hit a bit of a milestone on YouTube this week. I hit 1,000 subscribers, and I cannot tell you how much that means to me. I was so excited and so pleased. I think I started this channel in September, and what are we now, heading towards the end of February. You know, you do worry, is anybody going to be interested? Is anyone, going to watch? So it really does mean an awful lot to me. I really am very grateful, and I love it when people post comments. I enjoy all of it, really. I was so nervous in the beginning, and I don't know that I'm any less nervous, but I certainly am enjoying doing these videos. So thank you very much to each and every one of you. Anyway, I'll stop rambling and I'll tell you a bit about this dress. It's the Jasmine dress, and it comes from Dhurata Davies. She is an independent pattern designer. She's got a relatively small range of sewing patterns for women, children, and she's got at least one bag because I've got my eye on it. But she might have more than one. Anyway, I did a bit of pattern testing with her last year when she released her Jasmine dress, or it's a dress and a sweater, and I absolutely love that dress. I have made a few versions of it. I think I certainly made a winter one, and last summer I did a colour block one in linen. And I wore it. Really was my go-to, you know, when you want a dress to just throw on and, I don't know, nip down to the shops or something. It definitely was my go-to. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, because I've lost a bit of weight since then, neither of those dresses fit me, so I'm going to have to remake another one. But anyway, that's the previous one. This is the Jasmine dress, and when she asked me if I would do some pattern testing, I jumped at the chance because of how much I loved the Maxine dress. And one of the many things that I love about it is its pockets, and the Jasmine dress has very similar pockets. As you can see, there are two dress versions and a tee or a sweater version, but there are variations within that because there are two sleeve options and a ruffle option, and so therefore you've got two lengths to the dress. I have made two. The first one I made was the short sleeve version, and it's absolutely brilliant because it's a grown on sleeve. So there's no separate pattern piece, there's no having to worry about setting in a sleeve or even inserting one in the flat. So it's really easy. And one of the things I really like about this pattern and the Maxine dress is that they come together really easily. So it's a great option when you want to make something relatively quickly, you know, you're going away or the weather suddenly got better and you think I haven't got anything to wear. The first one, obviously I took my time over because I was pattern testing, so obviously you're being very careful about following the instructions to the letter, and you're looking out for any improvements and even any typos. So the first one took a little bit of time, but the second version that I made, which is the one I'm wearing now, honestly, it didn't take I think it took me 3, maybe 4 hours, from cutting out through to trying it on. And even the princess line seam from the center panel through to the hem, so center panel to the side ones, sometimes those can be a bit of a pain because you've got a lot to ease in, but that came together really nice and easily as well. So the version I made, I used some linen I already had in my stash, which I bought from Abakhan's in one of their sort of bargain bins. I would say it's not the best quality linen in the world. It's got some kind of blend. I think it's the sort that will crease pretty easily, but I chose it because it was very drapey, and I thought that would look nice with the gathers at the side where you tie the belt round. Now in my case, I don't have a particularly defined waist. I've got the typical thicker waist that comes with the joy of being menopausal. So somebody with a more defined waist is certainly going to get more gathers around that belt tie area than I get. And I really like how that looks. So I wanted to kind of see how that was with a drapey fabric. But because this fabric is a fairly sort of plain, ordinary colour, I did do some top stitching, some contrast top stitching down. That's the back seam, centre back seam, and along the front on the front panel there. So that's one of the things that's great about it, is you've got options to kind of do some contrast top stitching, and you've also got some colour blocking opportunities. You know, you could have separate colour on the lower part of the side panels to the top part, and you know, do a separate colour with the centre section, or with the ties, or with the ruffle, or even with the cuff on the short sleeve option. So there's all sorts that could be done with it, which is great because, you know, obviously it's fabulous and versatile. Obviously, without a doubt, the best bit has got to be the pockets, and they are so effective because they're sort of hidden in the side, in the seam there, but they come together so easily, and you know, they're nice big pockets here. Yeah, they're just brilliant. I went for short sleeves with this one, which is my first version. So as you can see, it's just a grown on sleeve with a separate cuff, which really comes together, you know, pretty easily. And I really enjoyed that, but I was intrigued to see how the sleeved version would work. So that's why I ended up making a second one, which is the one I'm wearing now. But this version is, yeah, it's the short sleeves. It doesn't have the ruffle at the bottom, and they all have a slightly dipped hem at the back, which is great because it's not too big a dip. I'm not overly keen on a dropped hem when you've got, you know, it's a sort of almost mini at the front and down to your ankles at the back. It's not a look I particularly like. It's a nice gentle drop, and that does mean that you have to use bias tape for the hem. Obviously you can make your own, and I've done that plenty of times, but I had this pre-made bias tape that the colour worked quite well with the dress, so I used that. It comes from a company called Frumble, and they have some really good pre-made bias tapes, and also piping, because it goes back a while ago now, I think I was making some Carolyn pyjamas, it's closet case patterns, and I didn't want to make my own piping, and I was looking desperately for somebody that sold it that's not upholstery, that's kind of more for dressmaking. And they've got a really good range of piping and bias binding in all sorts of different colours. So check them out. Obviously this is a completely different kind of fabric. This is, I think she called it a peach skin, but it's definitely a poly dress fabric. It came from the Fabric Edit. I can't remember how much I paid for it. I am going to start making a note when my fabric arrives how much it costs so that I can tell you, but unfortunately I haven't started doing that yet, so we're reliant on the memory, which is not that great. But yes, it came from the Fabric Edit, which is run by JJ, the Camden Stitch. I keep mentioning her because I bought quite a lot of fabric from her recently. So hopefully her fabric sales will be back on Instagram soon. Can you see it's a leopard print? So yeah, I'm afraid I couldn't resist it. So yeah, this is obviously gives it quite a different look to using a plain or a linen. But yeah, I just really like this. It's got a little bit of static to it, so I probably could do with making something like a cotton slip, or I've heard that if you use safety pins in the hem that gets rid of the static, but I've not tried it. Mostly I was looking to see that sleeve detail, and I think it's really interesting. I've not seen a sleeve with that inverted box pleat detail there, and then it kind of balloons out and comes into an elastic cuff there. which I've said before I really, really like. And that whole kind of trend for statement sleeves is not going anywhere just yet. So it's a great way to incorporate that. I really, really like the sleeve. So I'm really glad I made a second version. And all in all, I would say that, well, you can tell I really like this pattern. Don't think that I am biased in any way. I have not benefited in any way whatsoever from talking about this or from showing it to you. I did, of course, get the pattern for free because of doing pattern testing, but as anyone who's done any pattern testing will know, it's not really for free, is it? Because you give your time and you're using your own fabric, so that all adds up to a lot more than the cost of a sewing pattern. And if I had any issues with it, I wouldn't think twice about telling you, but I love it. And I would also kind of like the idea of giving a bit of support to somebody who is an independent pattern designer who's a bit of a one-woman band, and certainly isn't particularly well known in the sewing community yet. So just wanted to share with you what I've been up to, and go check out Dhurata's website. I will put a link below. I didn't make the t-shirt version, obviously, but wouldn't that make a great stash buster? I mean, if you were colour blocking, you could do the sleeveless version or the sleeved version. That would make a really good top that would go with pretty much anything. So, and I think, although it's designed for wovens, I think something like a stable knit, like a ponte, I don't see why you couldn't use a ponte for it. I mean, you wouldn't want to use, a viscose jersey or something, but I think it would work really well. So I am off celebrating my 20th wedding anniversary soon, so I may go a little bit quiet while we disappear off to do that. I can't believe I've been married for 20 years. I feel we had a bit of a whirlwind romance, and I was pregnant with our first daughter within about half a second of us meeting. So in some ways I feel like we're still a new relationship, which is a bit bonkers, isn't it, when you've been married for 20 years? Anyway, maybe that's a good sign. So I may go a little bit quiet. What kind of an idiot am I? I managed to sew through my finger yesterday. Luckily, only just. I was installing a zip, so I had a zip foot on, so obviously a very narrow zip foot on my machine. I was guiding it through, and the needle literally just nicked, like about a millimetre into the side of my finger. And if you're squeamish, put your fingers in your ears. Literally, the needle went into my skin and through, and my finger was under the needle on the plate of my machine. So, it really hurt. I mean, it really hurt, and it was bleeding like mad. Anyway, it now just looks like a tiny little nick, but actually it's sore, and I'm having to be a bit careful with it today. So that will disappear soon, no doubt. But don't do what I did, because I know it's supposed to be a rite of passage for all sewing people, but it hurt. So that's it from me and my poorly finger for now. I will be back to talk about the Great Module Sew Along. I have finished my topper, and I was obviously just starting the chinos when this happened. So when I'm back from celebrating the wedding anniversary, I will update you and let you know where I've got to with everything on that. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed, please do. It really does mean a lot to me, and I really enjoy all the comments. Really is appreciated. I will see you all soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.